Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.
What's up, gang? Welcome to the G.R.I.N.D. Simon Arias here. Get ready, it's a new day. What's up, gang? Welcome back to another episode of the G.R.I.N.D. Get ready, it's a new day. And I got my friend in the house, Jess Briganti. So, ladies, listen up. This one's full of fire and full of power over here. And so why don't we start out talking about how you and I met, how we got our relationship formed, and then we'll go from there.
Oh my gosh, Simon, this is so exciting. I've gotten to spend some time with you this morning on such a real level to see what Arias Agencies is all about. But I know you for years and years now because of great WFMJ, you know, that media outlet that allows what I do as a voice on air to bring in people with their stories and to have that platform to share.
Yep.
Of course, with
so the people that listen and they don't know what WFMJ is, for those of you that don't know, that is the news station in Youngstown, Ohio,
Absolutely.
Which is where I first came in contact with Jess through Inspiring Minds Youngstown. And immediately, you know, when I met you, there's just some people that I'm sure you guys can think about, you know, out there listening. There's just some people out there that you bump into and you could just feel their spirit. You know, you could almost just blindfold yourself and you'll just feel the person's spirit. And that's the vibe that I got from you. And so anytime that I would bump into you at the Canfield Fair or anything, it was like always this we're hustling, we're busy, but this connection, you know, that we had, that energy. And so you were on the news in Youngstown and but tell us a little bit about your upbringing. You know, how you were raised, where you were raised. We were talking a little bit about your mom and the beast that she is and how much she's done to help elevate you and open up doors for you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your upbringing? Because when you look at somebody like you, you know, if I'm sitting back and I'm listening to how well-spoken you are and I'm watching you on the news, you know, somebody would think, you know, she probably just had it really easy, you know, probably just had everything handed to her and you know, really good education paid for and two rich parents. And, you know, to judge is not really what it is. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, and everybody has a story, Simon, and that is so important to sometimes peel back those cover and to see what's underneath there, because there are layers to people. So born and raised Youngstown, Ohio. I am such a proud Valley native. And to even go off of that more, to say that when you see me on the cover, I grew up in a pretty affluent area, Poland, Ohio. So for those that don't know, Poland has quite a bit of the, you know, known for stigma. Of course, that status symbol, because there are a lot of very well-to-do people that live there. I grew up in an apartment, born and raised in an apartment that I came from a mom that raised me. I have an amazing dad. I have an amazing stepmom, but my mom definitely put in that time day in and day out that she raised me with all that she has. And I'm
single mom?
Yeah, through and through. They were married for 2 years. When I was 1, they got divorced, and my mom grinded it out.
What do you think you grabbed from, you know, because I could speak on my end. I know my mom was the same, single mom, worked 2-3 jobs, you know, grinded it out. We talked a little bit about that. You know, was on welfare for a while, sold our house for $11,000, moved to Camel my freshman year, bought a house for $30,000. And so I watched that whole grind and struggle. And just like you, I didn't really understand it at the time, but I understand it now, and I pull from that. And there's a lot of lessons that I've gotten from that. What things would you say that you've gotten, you know, from your mom that is instilled into you today that helps you become who you are?
Perseverance. I think you can't give up, even if you don't see options that are viable, or it seems like there's no way you can make that monthly rent that day. You don't think that it's going to be at the end of the month that you can make it all work. If you persevere and you have faith and you don't give up, you will. Sometimes you have to, you know, dig really hard, and there will be moments where you're like, I don't think I can, but you can. You have to persevere. My mom showed me that how many times. And I think she wishes she didn't show me sometimes all that she was going through, but I tell her that that's not her fault. And she had to, because that's just life. And I am better for it, because you appreciate so much when you get older, and that when you work hard, you will earn hard, and there's no failure.
You got that work ethic. You know, a lot of times people don't see. And I got an inside look because my little cousin was working at the news station. So I would have never imagined the amount of work that goes into that, unless you're on the inside, unless you know somebody or you're on the inside. Like I watched her, she was up at 3 o'clock in the morning and starting at like 4 o'clock somewhere. And, it was crazy. Sometimes when you see people, it looks easy, on the news, it's like, she probably just throws on some makeup and comes in there and says a couple words and cashes a check and gets out of there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that grind, what comes with that, the work ethic that you've had to, bring to the table?
So a little known fact about me that's kind of interesting, I think, is I was a junior in college thinking that I had this game ready. I was ready for TV. I wanted to be on there, and I was almost done. I get a call that, hey, there's a weekend weather position in Youngstown. And I'm like, I'm from Youngstown for my TV advisor. I'm at Kent State University, so I'm about 45 minutes away. And they're like, hey, this is a weekend gig. They're looking for somebody who can be part-time, and I think you could do it. I'm like, what? I'm like, Youngstown's where I grew up. So I make this fake demo reel at a green screen, and I'm like, this is me. See if you want me. And so as 21, I got hired for the weekend weather position, and I just started grinding. That's when I learned, okay, I want to put in the time, so I started studying hardcore about what was going to be on air. How do we make this work? I just like people. And obviously you can already tell within a few minutes I like to talk. So that comes naturally. And by 21, I had already had a year under my belt of working the weekends, filling in for a lot of the meteorologists during the week that needed time off. Well, I was like, I'm game. I'm in.
Well, that's just the first start.
Yeah.
A lot of kids coming out of college, that would have been don't want to do that. I don't want to work weekends.
Yes.
I don't want to work on the weekend. So that's the first thing that stands out is I'm going to start working weekends.
When I had to finish my degree, so that was also a really hard thing to manage, the professional world and still academically having to nail that down. And it took me an extra year to graduate because I wanted to jumpstart professionally. So in hindsight, it may not have been ideal because it cost me more, but it also gave me that platform to see that what I was doing in school on a firsthand level, being on those weekends, it gave me everything. Now, I also learned quickly, I am so loud and out there that the evenings were not for me, okay? So I'm a morning person. Like, the evenings, they were
Me too.
Now, who's this chick coming at me?
When you came in today, what was I doing?
You were rocking that time management. You were getting a haircut, working that time in there. You had to.
I was getting a haircut, and I had to tell the barber, that was in there. I said, "You got to excuse me.
No.
I'm a morning person." So he was kind of like just chilling, and I'm like, "Yo, man, what's up? How you guys doing?" I said, "For me, this is like afternoon.
Seriously,
so I don't think I would have been made for the evening show.
No, 11 o'clock at night, you're trying to turn down. You're trying to see what happened the day. You want to hear what the weather is tomorrow. You do not want me coming at you with excitement. You're like, man, this is too much at 11 o'clock at night. So I found my purpose was mornings by the chance of an opening. Timing is everything in news. For folks at home, they don't create positions for you. So you may be God's greatest gift in TV, but if there's not an opening, it's not going to be yours. So timing is everything. I was grinding down on weekends for a year, and then when the morning position came about, I'm like, I'm in. Can I tell you, I fought hard for that because I didn't have the experience. With TV, when people get hired, they need so many years put in. Again, it's very textbook. Like, hey, if you don't have 3 years in, we're not looking at you. If you don't have this degree, we're not looking at you. And I'm like, I'm going to break those barriers because I'm going to prove to you, if you see me and you hear me, I want to show you that I can do it. So I worked hard for that morning, Monday through Friday position. And once I got it, I was able to be there for nearly 7 years. And it's getting up at 2 a.m. And
Whoa.
if it's snowing, you get up at 1. Then you have to accommodate the forecast. Like I didn't come in.
So if it's snowing, you got to get up at 1.
Yeah, because I got to prepare my graphics.
You ain't just calling off. You got to keep going.
Yeah, I don't get snow days. The teachers that wanted snow days, I was like, okay, that snow day means an extra 2-3 hours of work for me. But I thrive on work. I do. And that might sound stupid, but I love to go. I want to keep going. And so to better prepare myself for TV, I have to be prepared with the data I'm looking at.
Amen.
And so that's a long day, but you grind it out. You look at the forecast, you help people start their day. That's a service that I've come to love because people are like, the best compliment is that my forecast was accurate, that I helped them smile, and that they thoroughly enjoyed listening to me. Those are gifts that you can't create.
Amen.
So when people tell me that, that's the best compliment is that I helped you start your day by knowing what to wear. And it sounds so simple, but TV gave me that venue and that vessel to give them, what they need.
Yeah. now we're going to give you the platform to give you what you need, because why don't we open up and we can cut this too, so you know. I know you know. Yeah. But you're like a black belt at all this stuff, you know. So
editing is a beautiful thing. No, yeah.
Why don't we transition on talking about being still and open-minded and in transitional period, you know, that you're in right now, as much as you want to elaborate and talk on. But
I appreciate
I told you I'm just at a spot in life where I'm just so comfortable being me and being authentic, you know, right now, that I'm good with anything.
And isn't that peace? That's peace that you can't buy. Yeah, and
such peace. So I'm basically, you know, we started entertaining, talking to each other, and possibly her transitioning out of news into what other things can she do, possibly with us, possibly somewhere else.
You're a jack of all trades, Simon. And so because we've known each other and I've been able to just know your spirit, know who you are, know your work ethic, and you know mine, so I was at WFMJ in Youngstown, Ohio, working, balling, loving life. And I get a phone call. I didn't even solicit this. I actually was approached, and I was in the middle of a contract from Albany, New York. And they're like, hey, we need you. And I'm like, hi, who are you and where are you? It's this great guy who says that, hey, I need you to come to Albany, New York. I'm like, okay, so how close is that to New York City? I geographically was so ignorant of upstate New York. I had no understanding of where everything was. And so I look it up on a map as he's talking to me, of course, so you can multitask. So I'm zooming in. I'm like, that's Albany. Okay, there's some mountains. That's pretty awesome. So long story short, he goes to give me an offer, and I'm like, you know what? I work 2 jobs back home, because secretly I also work at I worked at the racetrack actually, and I did camera work for them.
I didn't know that.
I was behind the scenes. Right. I just did some camera work for them, because you got to beast it out. You got to make that money. So I'm like, I've got myself pretty set. Like, I've got my bills paid for. I'm doing okay. You don't make money in this TV business, people. You see us put a lot of paint on our face and we talk, but you gotta have some multiple jobs to make it work. And I was making my bills that were met. And he goes, no, I think you need to take this leap of faith. He's like, I want to wait for you. I said, well, let me talk to my boss, because timing really isn't on my end working. But for you, if you're saying there's something there, long story short, I do it. I go. And for 2 years, I've been there. And it was like, okay. And so, you know what? It was that leap of faith that I took in Albany. And I would have been there. But you know what? The cost of living in New York is no joke. It's not New York City.
Oh, no.
Okay, but the taxes and the apartment, and I don't have anybody there.
Yep.
That's where I'm at now. That I was like, you know what? I can't make it work anymore. Yep. And they didn't. Again, TV doesn't pay. You don't break a mold.
So you reached out to me.
Yep. I'm like, hey, Simon, you've got the pulse of the community with you. If someone's looking to grow, someone's looking to pause and just look to see what else is out there, that's important. So anybody listening to this, that maybe you're in a place that it works, but you're not ready to just settle. And I don't like that word, because by settle, I mean you're not ready to just keep going when it's not enough. And I think that that's so important to somebody to know that I was on TV for 8.5 years. I busted my butt through 2 internships. I ate ramen noodles forever. I mean, I put myself through school. So I thought that since I did all that sacrificing, I have to just keep doing what I've been doing on TV. And you just keep on going to different news stations that want to pick you up. You just keep on showing, hey, I'm worth it. Pay me minimal money that doesn't make ends meet, but I'll just keep on living my dream.
Yeah.
Well, passions change, dreams change. And I think for anybody listening, that's important to be okay with. And so before I was to sign another contract that I wasn't okay with because the money wouldn't be enough, that yes, I could have had I could stay there and I could be happy, but I wouldn't be fulfilled financially. That I'm 30. I'm getting old, okay? So
I didn't want to ask. I was wondering.
No,
you
so
know
I'm
what I mean?
30. I'm at that threshold where I'm
you
like,
got that Asian blood in you. You know, don't. So you look like you're 20.
But I'm a halfie. So my mom's skin's still better than mine. I'm telling you, these pores are big. So the thing is, and with that lifestyle of TV, you don't get to work out enough, okay? So I'm going to work that gym that you got around the corner. But the thing is, before I just signed, just because it worked, I'm scared as heck that I'm leaving without anything on the other side for sure. But that's the thing. When you have options, even if it's McDonald's, even if it's Starbucks, there is no step backwards if you're allowing yourself to hit pause before you just go to go. Amen. I didn't want to just sign because it made sense. Well, it really didn't, because financially, that's not going to be enough to grow. And that's what life's about, is growing. And there are different chapters, and you don't know how long your chapter is going to be somewhere. But I was like, you know what, Simon, I want to talk to you.
I give you a lot of credit for that. You know, I think people can just get caught up in
comfort
and routine, and everything would be good if you don't have to change. And if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yep.
And typically when you have something that's been going for you so long, I think sometimes people just 10 years blows by or 20 years blows by and you look back and you wonder what happened.
Yep.
And I give you a lot of credit for opening your mind and being still and being open. And who knows where this will go. I told you, I said, my spirit is just whatever I can do to guide you and help you. And if God sees fit, that we join forces some way, somehow, then I think it would be great. I think you're so gifted. When I saw you and I started talking to you and I was driving home thinking about our conversation, I'm thinking like, wow, you have so many gifts. There's literally like 4 or 5 things that I could see you doing just here, let alone me making a phone call to other friends of mine. And, I just think you're one of those people that have so many gifts in you that whatever you set your mind on, wherever you end up being, that place is going to be blessed to have you there. And, I just know that I've been around a lot of people in business for the last 14 years, and I haven't met many people that have given me immediate confidence in their ability, like I've gotten from you. And I think that the 2 key things that stand out to me is your heart for people and your ability to connect with people, with different people from different walks of life. I think in our conversations, you were just, my passion is people.
Yep.
That you said my passion is people, and that's my passion.
Well, that's God giving us that heart for more and wanting to help in whatever way service means. I'm kind of one of those that if I had a nursing degree, I would love to help people on that medical level. If God gave me a teaching degree, I'd love to educate those kids in the classroom. So I humbly appreciate everything you've just said, because that just, it means so much that is how I'm being portrayed. That means so much that is what you take away as a successful businessman that you are, and you are seeing every walk of life come through your agency, whether it's on an employment level or the people you service through insurance. I appreciate that more than you know. And that's kind of where I just was wanting to hit pause, because when you realize that you can't have faith over fear, and you can realize that God has given you these tools, He's giving you peace that is rare sometimes. He's giving me peace to say, hold on, you are meant for more. And I want to humbly accept that, because I like work. And I like to do things, and I just want to be able to say, okay, I'm working hard, and I'm not worried about those student loans defaulting like they are. Yep. I want to work hard, and I'm not worried about that car. Like, that payment is made, and then I still can go through Chick-fil-A and get that Chick-fil-A sandwich I need. That it's not going to just break the bank, because they're a little more pricey than McDonald's, okay?
My pleasure.
So, exactly. And I'll tell them my pleasure for giving you my money, that it's not going to break the bank. So there's just that whole moment of you can't get time back. Amen. And we don't know how much time we have. None of us. And we're not granted anything more than right now. So
it says a lot about you to listen to that voice.
It's hard.
I know there's more in me. I know I got more in me. Something in me is calling me, is driving me to know that there's just something bigger. And I agree with that voice. I agree with your spirit. I agree with there is, and I hope it's here, but I know there's something bigger that you're called to do.
Thank you.
In this world, because you got some special gifts. Why don't we start wrapping it up talking about work ethic? There's a quote that I use sometimes that says, when you adopt the habits of success becomes a habit.
That's good.
And so there's some habits. There's some habits that stand out to me, and there's different definitions of success. I think people typically, you think success, you automatically go to money. Mm-hmm. That's not the full definition to me. And so I think you've been very successful. I think you're going to be even more successful. But in your opinion, what are some habits? What are some things that you found being around others, interviewing others, in the media? What are things that you've seen, adopted yourself, found that are habits of success that you think you would give advice to somebody else out there?
Well, and I want to play off your financial thing, because of course money is the biggest stressor in so many people's life. But even if your wallet's full and your heart's not, what is that? And when your heart is full, you can always make money. So you'll always find a way to hopefully make that work. So I think you have to understand that it's not always a world where you are seeing what you're going to get. What are you going to give? Because if you're giving, you're going to get. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
You can't just be in this foot, gimme.
I just was listening to a sermon, and I mean, this is like within the last 48 hours.
You're like, preach it.
And we were talking about, and he was talking about, which I steal stuff from, and so now we are talking about anything that you get from that you don't give back to. Typically that relationship goes sour. So even the earth, the clouds, they give rain, and then and then that has the humidity happens,
yep,
and
the evaporation, that condensation,
and all
that water cycle.
Just the cycle.
Yeah.
In a relationship.
Yeah.
If your spouse or significant other is giving to you all the time and you're not giving anything back, typically that relationship will. And sometimes people become better receivers, wide receivers than they are givers. And anything that you want, whether it's the earth, the grass, your relationship, anything that gives to you, you got to be prepared to give back to it. And the more that you give back to it, the more that it'll continue to give to you. And
that's beautiful.
And that's how you add value, in my opinion. How about work ethic? Talk to me about work ethic. And
I'd say this carefully because this can be taken out of context, but saying no will set you up to have those blockages. You got to say yes. Again, you have to know how to use the word no. You don't want to be abused or anything and used in certain situations. But when it comes to professional, saying yes means getting to know things that maybe you're not going to use more than that day or days ahead, but you're going to know what's out there. You got to keep going. That when your boss calls and says, hey, you got to work the weekend, all of a sudden do it. Because you know what? You're going to work with new people that are going to give you a chance to grow from those people. New people are going to see you that maybe didn't know that you work Saturdays, and you don't know what's going to come from that. And then the appreciation of having work. People that don't have a job, do you know how hard that is? That maybe they can't find the job. The fact that you have work and you can do work, do it.
No doubt.
Okay, like this has been the scariest time for me to say no to something without having something lined up. Like honestly, sleepless nights. The bags, it's covered by cover up. Thank God that women can wear makeup, because the last month has been very trying on my soul. And again, you choose that faith over fear, but it's very scary. But that work ethic, knowing that I will never say no to having a job at a fast food joint, saying I will work at a grocery store if it means just having a job before I know what my career is supposed to take off. I'm okay with that. So as a worker, I think the young sometimes have that entitlement. Like they're like, I just know what I want. I'm going to get there. I can't, they won't take the steps to get there. It's going to cost you weekends. It's going to cost you holidays. Like in the news business, yeah, we work a lot of Christmases, but there's family in that. There's family in the fact that people are there with you. So when you use your word grind, I love that so much, Simon, because the grind is always going to be there. But how are you going to accept that and let it be better for you, and also that you can give to others? Because everyone's going to have to work. So don't think that there's one escalator to get you to where you think you want to be. You've got to put those steps in. Take the stairs.
Got to.
The escalator isn't going to always work. It crashes sometimes.
A friend of mine, Rory Vaden, wrote a book called Take the Stairs.
Hey, see there.
I'm gonna have to get it for you. But
and you're slimmer for it too, so it's a win-win. I'm working on it.
You're hilarious. The thing about what you were talking about is those steps. A lot of times people want the prize, but they don't want the process.
And don't we all want a prize? But you got to be able to appreciate the process. Because when you get that prize, you're like, damn, this is nice. I'm allowed to say that.
Earn that. Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I had to, apologize in advance, to her. I said, once in a while, we were talking about the Lord.
Amen. And I am a believer.
How big of an impact that my relationship with God has played, but then I had to hurry up and let her know, like, hey, just so you know, I let one fly every now and then.
But the Lord knows our heart.
Swear.
He knows our heart. He knows that we ask for repentance, and sometimes it's just that passion coming out in those words. Okay, but no, that's it. We all want a prize. Of course we do. We'd be fools to say that we're not worried about making that money.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to put in the work to make that money, and that's just, again, that's the real life.
No doubt.
You gotta work.
Another thing I've noticed that sticks out about you and others that people want to be around is attitude. You talked a little bit about, well, I get to do this job, or I get to, it's all perspective of things. Attitude. What I had a girl in my youth program that I was recently visiting in the last couple of days, and I find out that she got like that type of energy, always positive, just want to be around her.
Yeah.
And she's like, so I start researching a little bit more about her, digging a little bit deeper, and I find out that she moved from California to Youngstown, Ohio, change of living with parents, and went from one school to another high school, and just not an easy situation. It's tough as a teen to go from the West Coast to the East Coast, have no friends, start in high school as a female.
Yep.
And you come in and you have this positive vibe and attitude. And basically what I gathered from her asking her questions was it's a choice that she just decided no matter what is going on, I'm going to wake up and have a positive attitude and be grateful that I'm alive. I think that's one of the things that stands out. Not always is everybody that's successful, super successful, have a great attitude or positive attitude, but more often than not, I see people that have that positive attitude as being one of the foundations for greatness and for success, positive attitude and perspective. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what a wise young woman to realize that again, because you have to choose joy. It is not going to be life that throws you everything that's rainbows and butterflies by any means. And again, I can understand her in some ways. When I was 18 years old, up until 18, I had never been on an airplane, never traveled. I lived a very sheltered life in Youngstown. Again, why I was embarrassed to be Asian, because I didn't know Asians. I was in Youngstown, Ohio. My Italian ran thick, but I don't look Italian. So I lived a weird life up to 18 where I didn't know where to identify. My parents, I had never traveled outside of Youngstown. My mom decides she needs to move to Georgia when I graduate high school because there's an opportunity for her that she had sacrificed so much that she needed to do this professionally to be able to grow in the insurance agency, actually. So she was able to have people in her corner move her to Georgia. My dad decides to take on a detail in Israel. So I'm 18, never left the house in terms of flying on a plane or anything, and I'm 18 going to college in Kent State University, and my family just up and leaves. So I'm like, okay, life's getting real. And like that set me up to understand and appreciate so much. So again, you don't know what people's circumstances are, and we can't change them. Life is going to happen. And you have to choose joy, and how do we grow from certain situations? You can't just go, you got to go and grow. Because if you just go 90 miles an hour and you look at all the negative, that's going to overcome you. You got to choose joy and say, okay, how do we mold this to be better?
You can't build a positive life with a negative attitude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think people we got to start at the basic foundation. If you want to change, understand that if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yep.
And you can't, even if the circumstances currently aren't perfect or great for you, understand that it's going to be very difficult for you to build a positive life with a negative attitude. It's got to be positive attitude to build this positive life. You talked about choices, and I think that life is, 90% of life is how we react, and 10% of it is what happens to us.
Amen.
Everybody walking has their own story. You just never know what somebody else has gone through or is going through, even though we typically look at someone and read a book by its cover. But most people are going through stuff. Like, life is going to happen to everybody.
Yep,
it's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to me. It's going to happen and the more that I'm around, the more that I learn about people, the more I realize that it's a struggle. To survive is the struggle. To survive is to go through stuff. And you can't always control the event, but you can control your response. And if you can control your response, that determines your outcome.
And we're not perfect people. You're going to have that day that you don't get out of bed because you're like, crap, what am I supposed to do today? Let alone tonight, let alone how do I survive? Because you can't just go to McDonald's because you don't have enough to go until you're paid 2 days later. Like, that's real life, and I get that. Again, you don't ever want to feel woe is me, but I've lived moments where you're like, crap, I can't do it. But you can. And you have to breathe. And when you have those 2 steps
how do you
backward,
bounce out of that? So
you just
let's
sit
say
there.
you're down.
Okay.
You mentally get down because we're human. People get down.
Yep.
And so if you get down, I think the key is everybody gets down. Some people get up faster. Some people don't stay down as long. Some people stay down too long. How do you get up? How have you gotten up? How have you survived those mental battles of the struggles of things that you've had to go through?
Knowing that you don't want to stay down. Knowing that you don't want to just stay down, and then what? It's so easy. When you sadly see people that are homeless, they quickly lost a job, then they lost the ability to pay for rent, and it's over. You don't want to fall into that where I'm just down all the time. So when you have that day or days, then you get back up and you're like, okay, how do I do better then? How do I make that? You can't be afraid to ask for help. You can't be afraid to be humble and just say, I could use that moment. Could you give me a breather? And then, like you said earlier, let's circle back. You give to somebody else. You don't know what you have as a gift until someone's like, thank you. That moment you talked to me or that coffee you bought me, it changed me for that day. It gave me the caffeine I needed to stay out of bed because you gave me that coffee. Like, you just don't know. So even when you have a moment to sit back, you just can't settle for sitting. You have to get back up.
I agree.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. It's a beautiful thing. And there are people that want to help you.
No doubt. I want to help you.
You're amazing.
I want to help you.
And I want to be helped. No, I'm just kidding. You are amazing.
We are not taking no for an answer over here on the Grindcast, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned. But I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for your spirit. Thanks for on a whim. We just were walking up here. I said, let's just do a podcast together. And I thought you were going to tell me, maybe another time, or and just we had no notes, we had no game plan. We just kind of sat here and talked, and I appreciate that. I appreciate having you. Thanks for joining us on an episode of the Grindcast. Get ready, it's a new day.
Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast, bud.